This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Recording in progress.
Okay, good morning everyone. Shalom Aleichem. We have an amazing topic today, a short topic. Today we're going to speak about the following subject. Let's say somebody is in a situation where they are being coerced to do an Aveira. There is no alternative. The governor, the ruler makes a law, everyone has to eat treif. So the guy says, great, I always wanted McDonald's. And the guy runs to McDonald's and he eats it mamish with relish, with appetite. He puts ketchup and mustard, and he puts every dip imaginable. And he eats it with b'teyavai. Mamish, like the story goes on Yom Kippur, one of the Rebbes once saw a Yid eating on Yom Kippur. And the Rebbe said, es geschmack. So the Chassav, why? He's eating on Yom Kippur. Yeah, but I don't want him to eat lahaches. It's better that he should eat l'teyavain. So let's say, basically, in a situation of oines, let's say somebody does it b'ratzain. That's the question. How would we view a situation where there's no alternative, there's no choice, but the person is doing it willingly? How do you view that? Is that oines or is that ratzain? Are they liable? Would a woman be asur to her husband? Would somebody be liable to punishment? Let's see the shaila, and this shaila is brought by many achrayim. I even put in a call to the one who writes the Sugyas up for the Daf Hashavua about this question. And let's start with Rabbi Chanan. Rabbi Chanan in the Kovetz Ha'aras, Simin Mem Tes, Ois Gimel. Very interesting general question. V'hine yesh lachgar, v'hada anus pater miklum. This idea that anus is pater from everything. Im haya anus mi pachad misa. What if somebody was coerced out of fear of death? V'gam rotzoin gamor, but it was also willingly. She'ilu lo yansuhu, because had they not forced him, haya oisa b'rtzoinai, the person would have done it willingly. So it was coercion, but it was also Ratzon Gamor, that, the person would have eaten at McDonald's even if he would not have been forced. Let's say the person goes every day to McDonald's, and now he's being forced to eat there. How do we view this? Minema, do we say, says Rabbi Chanan, Kivan di ilav ritzainai, haya mutter lai lavar shloi lehareg. Do we say, since if it would not have been his will, let's say he would not have eaten the McDonald's willingly, he would be allowed to eat the McDonald's because he's being forced, so that he should not be killed. In other words, let's say he wouldn't want to eat the food. Would he be allowed to now? Yeah, because he's being forced. So that means the action is permitted. Because had he not wanted it, he would be permitted to eat the sandwich. So the mais is mutter. Yeah, but the rotzoin is not mutter. That which he wants to do, Isser, what are you going to nail him on wanting? The maisa is mutter. Had he not wanted, he'd be allowed to do it. Had he not wanted, he'd be allowed to do it. So the act is permitted. Elamai, he shouldn't want. Oh, bad boy, you wanted it. What are you gonna be mechayiv him misa for wanting it? What's wrong with wanting it? The act without wanting is permitted. So now what? You're going to attach the act to the ratzon. Ein l'tzarif ha'maisa l'ratzon. The act is permitted. You're allowed to eat the sandwich under these circumstances if you don't want. Elamai, I want. So you're going to be mechayiv him misa for wanting? You know what it's like? It's like a guy who wants to eat chazer and eats a piece of lamb chops. The pater mimalkos. Let's say a guy who wants to eat treif and it turns out he ate kosher. He's not chayiv malchus because he didn't do anything. So too in this case. Yeah, but in this case he did an avera. Yeah, but it's not an avera, because if he didn't want it, he'd be allowed to do it. So the maisa is mutter. Elamai, the ratzain, how is the ratzain any different than someone who wants to do an avera and it turns out he didn't do an avera? So what are you going to do? You're going to connect the ratzain to the maisa? Oidilma says Rachanan Dolaydami. It's not similar. Lahasam. Dahacha be'emes ika maser iser. There's an act of iser here. In the case where you wanted to eat treif and you ate kosher, you didn't do an iser. Here you did an iser. You ate treif. I v'had pater, that which I'm pater, that's b'shu anos. When I'm forced, the reason why I'm pater when I'm forced, mishum de'ein l'chayvay ala ma'isa greida b'lay ratzay. You know why I'm chayiv? You know why I'm pater when I'm forced? I'm pater when I'm forced because an act alone you're not chayiv on b'lay ratzon without ratzon. Hear this? The reason why I'm pater on oinus is because you can't nail a guy for an act without ratzon. In a case where, in our case, on the other hand, there's a maisa iser, and I do want it. The maisa is mutter. I did a maisa iser, and there's ratzon. The only time anus is permitted is because you can't nail someone on a maisa without ratzon. The reason why anus is mutter is you're lacking ratzon. But if you have ratzon, anus would be chayiv. Avlam ratzon elavar al isra b'mezid. But if you wanted to violate the isra b'mezid, shagam im lo yansu, that even if they would not have forced him haya oisa b'ratzon, I would have done it willingly. V'ika maisa iser v'gam ratzon shaper yesh l'chayiv misa. Shah oinus einoi pater. Oinus is not pater. You see, if oinus is a patur, the first side is oinus is a patur. So when I do an avera ba'oinus, there's no maisa. Oh, but you wanted it. Okay, I wanted it. But I'm not punished if I want to do an avera and it turned out I didn't. And oinus is a patur on the maisa. If oinus is a patur on the maisa, then if I want to do it, I'm not going to be chayiv. But if oinus is not a patur on the maisa, it's that I can't be mechayiv someone without ratzon, then I have ratzon here. If oinus is not a patur, ela shetzarch ratzon kedei she's chayiv, but avamakim sheyesh ratzon, ein oinus paitrai. So the question is oinus a patur on the maisa, or is oinus just, I don't have the ingredient of ratzon? What does this have to do with Kesuvos? What does this have to do with Kesuvos? This file didn't load. Second. What does this have to do with Kesuvos?
Machlek is between Abu Adishmol and Rabbah.
Let me see if I could bring this up here. No, there's a problem here. Okay. Were you able to open up the Marmakomis I sent you?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, let me try sending it again to myself. Okay, so let's see. Let's see our Gemara. Our Gemara brings a very interesting machlokes on Daf Nun Aleph Amud Beis. Like Rav Asi said, that the father of Shmuel said that the wife of a Jew that is raped, she's usher to her husband. Why? But she's coerced. Says the Gemara, yeah, she's coerced, but... Okay, it opens here, good. She's coerced, but we're afraid that by the end of the Maisa, she did it b'ratzain. We're afraid by the end of the Maisa, she did it b'ratzain. That's what the Gemara says. The Avua de Shmuel says, by the end of the Maisa, we're afraid she did it b'ratzain. But that argues on Rava. What does Rava say? Rava says, even if she did do it b'ratzain, even if she says, let it be, I'm enjoying this. Actually, if he wouldn't have done it, I would have hired him. She's still mutter. Why? Yitzra albasha. Once she got caught up with the Yetzer Hara, it's sort of beyond her control. That's the machlokes between Avua de Shmuel and Rava. So, come the Achroinim, and the Achroinim say, we could bring a raya from our Gemara, that if a person's in a situation of oinus, and they do it b'ratzain, that it's considered ratzain, because Avua de Shmuel says that a woman who is raped, we're afraid that maybe in the end she did it b'ratzain. That implies if she did do it b'ratzain, when she's being forced, that's ratzain. You could ask, who cares about her ratzain? According to the tzad of Rabbi Chanan, that you can't nail someone on oinus, that oinus is a batur. Elamai, oh, you want it. Very good, you want it. You're not doing an avera wanting to do an avera. There's no avera to want to do an avera. The avera is doing the avera, but you're an oinus on that. So is this Gemara a proof that when a person is coerced to do an avera, if they want it, it becomes an avera? And even Rava, by the way, even Rava agrees, if in the end you want it, that's called wanting. It's just Rava says, this is not called wanting because Yitzra Albasha. But if she would have wanted it from the beginning, everybody agrees that Ratzain is a problem. Meaning this Gemara seems to be taking one side of the Chakir of Rabbi Chanan. Because in this case, the Gemara seems to be saying very clearly, if we knew she wanted it from the beginning, she would be asur to her husband. What do you mean? She's being forced. And doesn't Rabbi Chanan have a tzad that when a person is forced, so they're pater on the maisa. Elamai, the ratzon, you can't nail someone just for ratzon. It's like neskavein lechal b'sar chazir va'ala b'yadai b'sar tleh. That's what it would seem like, that this Gemara, both Avua de Shmuel and Rava, would be taking the tzad that when you want to do something, when you're forced, that's not called, that's a problem, that's ratzain. So the Nesivos HaMishpat, you know that the Nesivos wrote a very important sefer on Kesuvos, it's called Beis Yaakov. The Nesivos is going on Tosfos. Tosfos asks, according to Avua de Shmuel, that we're afraid that if a woman is raped, she's also to her husband because by the end of the biyah she's doing it b'ratzain. So why was Esther permitted to Mordechai in the beginning? Achashverosh was basically coercing her, and why aren't we afraid that in the end that she did it b'ratzain? So Tosfos says no, tzaddikus is different. Says the Nesivos, now there's a pasha to answer Tosfos' kasha. Says the Nesivos, our Gemara is talking about a specific scenario where the guy forced her in the beginning, and he's living with her a few times, kayach risha and kayach sheni, kayach shlishi, and he's only forcing her the first time. Time 2, time 3, she could escape. She could leave. That's the case of the Gemara. The case of the Gemara is that the oinus of this guy, the guy's only raping her for one biyah, and he continues to do it multiple times in that one situation. And she's able to escape time 2 and time 3. And she doesn't. Now I would say the Gemara is not mashma like that, because then why does Avua de Shmuel say, we're concerned Soifa Baratzain? Obviously Soifa Baratzain if she could leave. Obviously Soifa Baratzain. Unless Avua de Shmuel says, well, maybe Avuah Dishmul agrees to Rava to some extent that even though she could leave, once she was forced in the first kayach, maybe to that extent she's not expected to, just because she could pick up and leave, she's not expected to. And Rav is of the opinion, even if she asks for him to continue, it's considered einus. But in any event, the Nesiva says as follows. You know what we're talking about over here? We're talking about Venera Lefiani as Daiti, Had Imvadai Soifa Baratzain, the Nesra Bal Karchach. V'yichayla Lifresh Mimenu B'kayach Sheni or Shlishi, V'enoi Parashas Meretzainu Ba'nas Bila. He says, certainly, if the end is Baratzain, she's going to be Asar if she could separate from the guy by the second or third Maisa, and she doesn't do it. But if she can't separate at all, even if she's enjoying it, she's permitted to her husband. In that case, the situation by Esther is not a kasha. The situation by Esther is she can't leave at all. You want to know why she's permitted? She's permitted because she's trapped. I don't understand this, Nesivos, because when the Gemara asks, well, how do you have a case that if a woman is raped, she's permitted? The Gemara should have said, the case is where the guy's a terrorist, and he's not letting her leave. She doesn't have to be screaming from beginning to end. But that's what the Nesiva seems to be saying. That our Gemara is talking about where she could escape. And because she could escape, that's why it's called Ratzain. But if a person cannot escape, even though they're doing it willingly, that might be called Einus. I wanted to share with you how the Chassam Sofer would wiggle out of this. Chassam Sofer on this Gemara says, we're worried maybe the beginning was Ba'inus and the end is Baratzain. Ask the Chassam Sofer, okay, so would this woman then, let's say she was warned by Eidim, we don't want to see you enjoying it at the end of the Maisa. Would we kill her? Right? According to Rava, according to Avuah Dishmul, we're worried maybe she did Baratzain. Would there be a Chiyuv? Would there be an Einish? No. You know why? Says Chassam Sofer, no, she's only Asr to her husband. Why? But if there's no, how could it be there's no Arayos, and there's no Isser, and there's no Einish, there's no Einish, but she's still Asr to her husband? Says Chassam Sofer, Barak lebala asura, the al kalpanim ma'ala ma'al be'isha. Because at the end of the day, she was treacherous to her husband. Which means like this. This is a very important and fundamental chiddush of the Maharik. Do you remember on the beginning of the Masechta, the Gemara says, Misham tznuais misham prutzais. We're afraid that if we tell a woman that if she's violated, she's mutter to her husband, there'll be prutzais who will do it willingly, and there'll be toilet on the fact that we said that if she's violated, she's mutter to the husband. So Tosfos asks, how could we tell a woman that oinus is permitted? Tosfos asks, but it's gilui arayos. So if it's gilui arayos, she's not allowed to be mazana with the guy. So Tosfos first says, well, it's not true. Here, let me get the Tosfos. If you have a full Gemara, take a look at Tosfos on Daf Gimel Amud Beis. Tosfos asks, how could we be doiresh oinus is mutter, but it's yeharig ve'al yavar, it's gilui arayos? Rabbeinu Tam says, no, it's not yeharig ve'al yavar, because you're not chayiv misa on bilas mitzri. You're not chayiv misa. You're not chayiv misa for living with a guy. even willingly, because a Gentile is considered v'zirmas susim zirmasam. There's no isser misar for living with a guy. And then Tosfos says it's not true. Tosfos says that she would be usher. Then Rabbeinu Tam says based on that, if a woman goes off the derech and has relations with a guy, and the guy converts, then you're allowed to live with him, because there's no din of echad lebal ve'echad lebayal by bias mitzri. And then Tosfos brings the Rivam. Yeah, there definitely is an isser of isser lebal. So the question is, why would that be? Why would there be an isser of an isser lebal with bias akum if a guy is like a behema? So the Chassam Sofer on Daf Gimel Amud Beis, I didn't chap this, is Mamish L'Shitase, he brings the same yisoid. That the Isser Labal is not dependent on Gilui Arayos. It's dependent on getting the husband jealous. You committed an avla against the husband. You are Mo'ala Ma'al B'isha. So on Daf Gimel Amud Beis, even though a guy is Bias Mitzri is Bias Behema, but a woman who's mezaneh baratzon with a guy is asur to her husband. But she's not chayiv misa. Doesn't matter. She's still a soita. So the Chassam Sofer on our Gemara says exact same svara. Really, if somebody is in a situation where they have no choice and they do it willingly, they're not doing an avera. So why does Avua D'Shmo say you're asur to the husband? Because being asur to the husband is not dependent on an avera. It's dependent on whether you got the husband jealous or not. That's the chiddush of the Marik. Namely, are you mo'ala ma'al b'isha or you're not mo'ala ma'al b'isha? So it's very nice. There are two Chassam Sofers in the Masechta that utilize the svara of the Marik. On Daf Gimel Amud Beis, Chassam Sofer says that a woman who's mezaneh with a guy, she's asur to her husband, even if bias guy is bias behema, because ma'ala ma'al b'isha. And the Chassam Sofer non aleph Amud Beis says that even according to Avua Shmuel, that chashin and shemet chilas ba'inus the Sofer baratzain, this is only in the realm of being asur to the husband, but not anything else. Isser to the husband is not dependent on Maisa. Isser not dependent on Gilui Arayos. It's a separate din. Ma'ala ma'al b'isha. Rabbi, say have a wonderful day. Okay? Hatzlacha Rabba. Kol tov.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.